I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. I talked to Huda a couple weeks ago. Couple weeks? Last week, I don't know. Some time ago. Told her I was finally getting sick and tired of going to meetings that spent an hour or 90 minutes essentially just shooting the shit and not going anywhere. And I decided that I was going to try something different or quit going to meetings. So I invited you all here to share my thought about how to get beyond that and let you tell me whether you're interested or tell me that I'm the one that's full of shit. So whether you call them assumptions or beliefs or biases or mental models, all we have are our models. Though, as Sengi said in the fifth discipline, most of them are implicit and terribly, terribly flawed because most of them were developed subconsciously based upon our experience, and we don't think about them. And the only way to figure that out is to make them explicit and analyze them and see if our models actually make any sense. So what I would like to do is to enlist a group of people to come together and actually develop some models in a group fashion, though not everybody involved in doing the same model. Different people are interested in different things. So I envision that there might be a half a dozen different groups that are meeting at different times, pursuing investigation of different models that are of interest to them. And the question then is, well, how do you keep track of all this stuff going on with multiple people doing multiple things that are of interest to them? So I'd like to show you what I worked out to this point so you can figure out how to improve it, because I'm sure that it ain't there yet. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Where is it? Got to be here someplace. Is it? Oh, here it is. I don't even know what's on my own screen. So what I have here is a Kumu model that I started, which I would like to be home base. What it does is it will list, Siri, my throat is already going bad, a number of topics that people are interested in investigating. And the way that I perceive it to work is that each person interested signs up for a free Kumu account, and they request observer access to this particular model. And as a member of this model, each person will receive notification of new topics that have been suggested by people. You can then peruse the existing topics and identify something that's of interest to you, and you can follow the discussion on that topic. And that discussion will have a description of what's being pursued and who's participating and when they're meeting, with a link to the actual model that they're developing. And as people identify additional topics that they want to pursue, once 3 or 4 people identify a topic that they want to pursue, they can just schedule a time on my calendar and I'll host the meeting. And a feature of Kumu that is not well known is that within Kumu you can create elements, connections, and links. And any entity that you can create can have an associated discussion. So for this particular element, I can go ahead and click here and say, this is the big, the thread on the topics that people are interested. Right? So there's now an asterisk here that says there is a discussion. So if you came to, if you came to the model itself and wanted to look at this discussion, all you got to do is click on the asterisk and it will show you the discussion. Now, when a discussion is initiated, every individual who is a member of the project gets an email to say that this element or connection or this particular discussion has been started. So that the way that I would envision it is somebody comes here and says, I can't spell, so R&TI, how the works. And since I don't know where to start, I would simply give this as a beginning and post this. So then 2 or 3 other people, so that's suggested I go ahead and I start a new topic called economy. And then I go ahead and start a discussion on it. And now that interested. Now that I created that discussion, everybody who is following this project gets an email in their mailbox that says this topic has been suggested. And if you're interested, you can come here or you can respond to the email directly, or you can come here and post. And you can also follow this discussion if you'd like, which means anytime somebody posts to this discussion, you get a message in your email. You can also follow this discussion if you like, but this one's probably going to be kind of busy. So once that happens, once a number of people decide that they're interested in doing a model of some aspect of economy, we actually go ahead and begin to build a qualitative model in Kumu. And I have thoughts about how to do that, though that's essentially the basis of what it is that I'm thinking about. Comments so far? Am I all wet?
No, not at all. My topic would be math education. I tutor in a homeschool enrichment program, but I only get 1 day a week with the kids. And I'm looking for practical application of doing geometry proofs, for example, because as I look at their very smart and very nice kids' faces, I get a lot of, yeah, but why really am I doing this? Why should I get over being scared of the blank page as I do a geometry proof or an algebra problem, because I don't ever see it doing anything practical? Well, so what we're talking about here is getting over the blank page problem for Kumu users by doing something practical and relatable. This is genius.
I am willing to facilitate as many meetings as I have options on my calendar for people who want to do it. And I will do the mechanics real time during the discussions until such time as people want to actually have a driver's license and do their own mechanics. But one of the things that, all right, 2 years ago, 8 or 10 of us were involved in creating a model for a rural community sustainable food system. And we probably met for 9 or 10 months. And
Yes.
the model that we developed is something that I don't care to show to anyone because it's an absolute mess. Though everyone involved walked away saying, I have a very new perspective on this problem that I never thought I would have. So it accomplished, although the model is a mess, it actually accomplished something meaningful because several of those people are now engaged in that effort for real in other places. So even though that, I mean, and they're developing other models as opposed to that one. Thoughts, Lori, Kerry, Jean? This is not a spectator sport.
What I'd like to say, Jean, is that I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I don't know anybody other than you and Huda. So, and I always feel uncomfortable in groups where I don't know the other people. I suppose kind of talking about the topics that we're interested in sort of gets an entree, but yeah, I mean, the relationships for me, there's the relationships in the system that we're mapping, but the relationships in what I call the system in the room are equally important to people being open to this. So I don't know whether, is this the whole group? Are there other people going to be watching this because it's a recording? I've got a lot of questions.
There were 28 people on the distribution list. A lot of them are in time zones saying they don't want to come at 5 a.m. to show up. Well, the people in Australia and New Zealand are even worse because they're tomorrow sometime. And the thing that I said is I will distribute the video at the end of this session, which is, well, there's 3 people interested in this topic, and there's a much better time for them to meet. And they can figure out what time it's appropriate for them to meet and just put it on my schedule. And if needs be, I'll host a session at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. Right?
So, and also, I mean, so the first point remains, but I want to know, what is the purpose? Is the purpose of this for people to practice? Is it to try out this piece of software or this method? What is it that we're looking to achieve here?
The purpose is for people collectively interested in a particular topic to better understand the relationships and their implications associated with that topic.
So do I assume that everybody already knows how to build a causal loop diagram, for example, and it's capable of doing?
They don't need to.
That's where I come. That's, Jean, that's my issue. You know that I like to talk about things, but I don't do much modeling.
Well, and this works in such a way that you only need to ask 2 questions. What influences this and what does this influence? And that's the extent of modeling that you need to understand. Right?
I think the concept, Jean, is that you're going to help do the modeling as it goes forward. Isn't that correct?
As I facilitate the sessions. Now, in the effort that I talked about that went on for 9 or 10 months, there were people who showed up to the sessions, and I did all of the mechanics of building the model, though there were a number of people who were very well versed in Kumu, and they worked on the model between meetings and left a gerbil trail that other people could follow. as they added pieces to it. And the group that comes together to investigate a topic gets to figure out how they want to work. And the thing is, simply by exposure over time, you develop a level of understanding. The initial requirement is simply to be interested in the topic.
And so if people don't feel comfortable in changing the model, they can use it, use what's there. They can try things that are there that are already involved, but can't change it or ruin it. And if you wanted to, you would then save the model and work on it alone by yourself if you wanted to within Kumu. Otherwise, you would work with a group.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. And of that model that we developed over that period, there were 136 individual discussions on items on the model. And we actually closed, I don't know, 80 or 90 of them as people worked through the discussion, came to an agreement on something, and we closed the discussion. But that's a lot of discussions to have on a single model. And each one of those discussions was on an individual, either an element or a relationship or a loop in the model.
Can we invite people that are not in the group?
Yes. You can take the video that gets sent out and send it to anyone that you think might be interested. I mean, there's, from my perspective, there's no restrictions on it. Well, I don't want it to be a spectator sport. I want people that are interested in pursuing an understanding of some particular topic to get engaged by thinking about it and offering their thoughts. That's all.
The reason I ask is that yesterday I was in a big group of people from the Operational Research Society, the Independent Consultants Network, and the presentation was by my old boss, Dennis Sherwood, and he was talking about some work he's been doing over time with Ofqual, which is the UK office for checking on qualifications, basically. And all the work that he did many years ago showed that qualifications were not reliable, grades were not reliable, and yet they have a massive effect on, you know, the future of all our children. And I suggested that we might want to sit and map, not thinking about why people can't get their mind around that, but what the implications of that really are, what the consequences of grades being wrong are, and what that does to the much, much, much bigger system. And he was interested in doing that. And I'm sure that a number of people in the ICN might be interested, which is why I asked, because I thought, you know, I could try and get a group of people to join around that topic.
Something between 5 and 10 seems to work well. If it's too big, too many people don't get a chance to actually participate, and they feel like they're on the sidelines. And too few, and there just isn't enough exchange between the people to move things along well. And Kerry, in terms of not knowing the people here, there's nobody here that bites, as far as I know.
Oh, no.
Well, we're all very separate, so it's all very safe, isn't it? Sort of. I've been bitten on Zoom, I can assure you.
So if where is it? Did I not open it? If you have a Kumu ID at present and want to drop it in the chat, I will add you to the members list. Huda's already here. And that's the first step. And if you don't have a Kumu account, you can sign up for a free one here. and then send it to me at Systems Wiki, or here is the.
Is it your email address, Jean? Is that how you? Because I did sign up a while ago when you came to our group, but I've not used it since.
So Kerry, do you remember what name you used? Kerry?
No, I don't know. That's it. I can't remember.
There you are. Kerry
Oh,
T.
there I am. Kerry T. That must be me.
I think I signed up a long, long time ago, but I haven't looked at anything in a long time. So I don't know if I'm there or not. Will it tell me that if I try to register again?
Did you use Lori or Lorraine?
Probably Lori. There I am,
Oh,
right
there you
there.
are.
I guess I used that. All right.
Eh?
I was going to say the same, Jean. I probably am under my email. If you want to search, otherwise I can send it later on by email. And I had one question. I have an existing model that I was working on probably 2 years ago that I would love to revisit. But is the idea then that we should start from scratch so that we're not influencing others' perceptions?
Well, that I would think that you propose that topic and indicate that you've already have a model, and is there anyone interested in participating? Is this you?
Did you find me?
So this process would even allow you to someone to ask for
That's
help
not you.
and get someone to come right to it and help in the particular piece they're having trouble with. And then the person can go back off when they're finished helping in that area, or they can stay involved. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, it's not, I would not expect that while a half a dozen people indicate that they're interested in this topic, they can't make it to all of the sessions, so that every session gets recorded and posted. And I've figured out a way to keep track of. One of the problems we had is if you miss 3 meetings and come back, the model has evolved so much you can't figure out where it was and where it is now. And I've figured out how to keep track from one meeting to the next, how the model evolves, so that you can look at the version from last week, this week, next week, the week after, without being confused about which one's which. So, Elizabeth, I'm still looking for you. Do you remember? Did you use Elizabeth?
Yeah, my apologies. I'm on my mobile, so I'm on my phone right now. But when I get to my computer, I'll share my username.
Okay. All right.
Hi, sorry, my computer just dropped off, and then it for some reason I was not able to get back in.
Jean, I do have an account, and I would like to, be in as well. I think this is a terrific process, and I like the approach that's getting people practical benefit and practice and getting things done, as well as getting advice from people who know more than they do. That's me. Also known as the fabulous Mr. Macho, in case
Any other comments about what I proposed as a process to this point? I mean, now here is
I think my only question, Jean, which I kind of asked you before, and it's probably just me being a little bit, I don't understand how, so if we have different topics, so are there going to be many different meetups and then you're just going to host depending on who's going to join? Is that how you're going to do it? So like you saying you're doing it like 1 a.m, if there was interest.
If there's 6 or 7 topics that are active, I'll host all of them whenever the people want to meet. If there's an open slot on my calendar.
And would it be, I guess it would also be okay for people to join asynchronously. So say if they wanted to add to a model when we're not meeting, or would that not work?
Yeah, if in other words, if you come to the topics page and you click on economy, I expect it to provide a description of what aspect of the economy the group is pursuing, who the participants are, and what time they're meeting, and a link to the model that they're developing, so that you could come here and look at what's going on with the economy group and look how it's going.
Okay.
And if you're interested, just show up at one of their meetings. You know, the thing that I can't show you at the moment, we have to do it, so there's an example that people can look at, is how it is that you just heard about it. I know this project has been going on for the last 3 months, and you just heard about it, and you come here and you say, I'm really interested in this topic, and you go to the model, how it is that you can step through the evolution of the model that they have been developing and jump into the next meeting if you're interested or not.
But you'll also have recordings of the various individual meetings that have taken place as it's developed.
Correct. So for this particular project, after this session, there will be a link here to this video. Now, the other thing that you can, no, that's too much, not today. You have to know when enough is enough. Maybe this is a more interesting page.
My view on it is that I think we should just try it and see how it works. And we might decide, we'll modify some aspects of it or some other ones. So Kerry, just for I was trying to talk earlier, but my computer was stuck. But when we meet up usually on these meetups, is we kind of share information, share resources, talk about different topics. It's kind of like so far we've had them as meetups. So exchange of ideas, exchange of information, exchange of tools and resources. So that's what we've been doing so far. So what Jean is proposing is to kind of like take it a little bit a step further than that. So instead of just talking about things, like we've had people present their work and present their books and things like that. So the next step was to, how about we do something together and we start to kind of do something kind of more like building models. And I think eventually with this group, we probably at some point later down the line, we'd love to work on a project together. But as you mentioned, there's quite a lot of people signed up on this group. Not everyone comes every week. Not everyone knows of everyone. So this is kind of like our way of getting to know each other, kind of doing some things together that are not a formal project. So in the future, this may or may not evolve into that, but that's kind of like the trajectory that you see. So at the moment, it's more kind of like a sandbox where everyone is kind of playing and kind of taking ideas from each other. And I think that's, for me at least, that's how I see it. Do you agree, Jean? And everyone else, please feel free to chip in.
Well, I've provided a set of thoughts. I am only wedded to what works. So I'm open to whatever modifications the group thinks make sense to do something meaningful on an ongoing basis. Because if it's not meaningful, why show up? I'm sure we have other things to do.
Well, I mean, I think we seem to have enjoyed it so far. We've had quite a few of these, and quite a few of us come back. So I think we don't have to solve the world's problems. We still can meet and enjoy each other's company and each other's ideas. Like, it's not it doesn't have to be like an obligation to produce something, but this could be quite a nice thing because everyone on this group is quite curious and quite kind of like likes to try different things and quite interested in lots of very interesting topics. So I think that's where we're coming from. And yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Kerry. Why is everyone here? Well, for me, like I said, I wanted to meet people that are curious, that are interested in different things, that I can, share things with, that will share things with me. Is kind of like, yeah, it's kind of building a little community of people that have similar interests or complementary interests. Anybody else wants to say why they joined these meetups?
Well,
Go
go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, I think I met you at the first one, Jean-Raymond.
Yes.
Yeah, Huda brought this community together to, as she said, some thought leadership, some learnings. We have a dashboard of materials, and I think we come in with different experiences and understanding systems, but also applying the models, building the models, applying them, and what are they useful for?
Oh,
so
yeah.
the influence question that
I think we've lost your,
Jean,
was it just me?
oh, can you still hear me?
Can everyone hear Elizabeth?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, so it was just me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. My computer's really not happy today.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
Elizabeth.
just a wealth of resources. And I think the questions that are asked during the sessions just spur an incredible amount of thought afterwards. So while my question mostly is around, does this group continue? I've had some one-offs with individuals and started working on some problem seeking and problem solving from system perspective. And I think, Jean, last time you brought an AI in beta prototype fashion that can do some of the modeling, which I think is only going to enhance our capabilities. So obviously we have different fields that we work in, but I think sharing the learnings has been really incredible this year. So I'm excited to jump in and get very practical as well. And Kerry, I'm in the UK, and I was just looking at my last project, which was actually on goal setting and goal striving, which may have some crossover with educational attainment and what that means for how people look beyond what happens after school. I don't know, just a thought. Thanks.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
No,
JeeAirr? Jean-Raymond, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So, well, I joined because of the word systems thinking. That was my original the reason why I joined this meeting. I know I need to open my own thinking to system thinking for what I'm doing at this point of time. Sorry. that was the starting point. The reason why I'm still here is because, well, I mean, you're brilliant. I mean, all the ideas, all the, I mean, it's, as I discuss it with Huda, it's just, I'm a curious person. Curiosity is every topic, and definitely on the types of topics you brought to this meeting just elevate, you know, my poor little brain. And yes, as you said, Elizabeth, I mean, there are additional thoughts coming from this. And that's exactly how, unfortunately, I function, because I get extremely quickly distracted. Now, in what you offering, Jean, at this point of time, my thought is this: I'm extremely interested in being able to model a system. That is really the practical piece I would love to learn, to participate, to whatever the word is at this point of time, for two reasons. Number one, Huda knows about that. I may be at the verge of creating a new incubator or accelerator, whatever you call it, in Belgium. I say maybe. We'll see. I'll see that. But so I already created my Kumu account, posted a discussion here now a couple of seconds ago, and it is, how do I model an incubator? All the relationship with all the partners around those ones to eventually derive the right business model. I am convinced that all the models that exist in the world, plug and play, a Y-cubator, name it, everywhere, they're missing the boat away on another. So that's the discussion number one. I would love to understand all the relationships around the owner of, I would say, an incubator. The reason number two I'm really interested in this exercise is to see if startups or scale-ups, whatever, are joining that incubator. Shouldn't they start with modeling their own problem? And that would help them develop the solution to the problem. So it is to design, to model the incubator, and secondly, to offer it as a tool to the customers of that incubator. Does that make sense, what I said? So that's the reason why I have been here, and the reason why I'm still here, and the reason why I'm definitely interested in the exercise, if I can use that terminology, and also to drive Huda crazy, which is just fun.
You don't. You don't.
I'm here for two different reasons. One is the same as Huda's. I'm retired. I have no community locally, and this gives me a community. And the other is I've been reading, and I'm very interested in how economies and civilizations rise and fall, and how people develop over time. And I have thought about writing a book where I combine about the thoughts of a lot of different peoples with their avenues, but I'm lazy right now because I'm getting older, and I need something like this. I think this is a great idea to help me get going on that.
You and me both, Lauren.
I would say that my participation is just about the same as that. I've been on the periphery for quite a while and felt like I've both been extremely interested and think it's very valuable, but I haven't really done much to move forward. And so I like the idea of sort of being with people who feel the same way about it, even if they're further along than I am and that sort of thing. I like what Jean's presentation is here, because it seems to me that it's adding in the push to try to go through the mechanisms to see how things get done, as well as getting help for doing projects that you really want to do. I've really felt ever since I first learned of systems dynamics that that it was an approach that I really needed to do and that the country needs to do. I feel disappointed that some of the learning processes haven't brought that into it. So we're still learning in old ways when I think systems thinking really needs to be in learning process. And there's a whole lot that I'd like to see moving forward. But while I'm retired as well, right now I'm sort of, my time is really tight for other reasons. And hopefully that's going to ease up soon, but I want to stay in touch.
I would like to add something. Actually, I'm retired as well, but I already have found how to keep me busy. And that's what I've been doing, you know, for the last 5 years, definitely, which is about innovation, transformation of a real problem into a game changer. That's really what I'm focusing on. How can I help startups? How can I help a corporate? Problem is different. So the incubator, that opportunity of the incubator is basically retro-engineering what I'm doing for startups and doing it from the incubation point of view. So that's what I wanted to add. Yes, I'm retired as well. That's definitely a reason why I'm in this group, because it keeps my mind busy, but I am already busy with a very specific topic.
So based upon comments and activity to this point, you probably noticed that I walked over here. There was a one down here that said there were more discussions that I hadn't seen. If you go to this model, it probably says 4 down there at the moment because there's 4 discussions that you haven't seen. And by clicking on it, it shows me what the discussions are. And you can initiate a discussion in Kumu either by clicking on an entity and then clicking this little comment button down here, or you can just go to discussions and you can start a new discussion here. And anyone who is a member of the project will receive an email. Any of you get emails about any of these?
Yeah, I got them for all of them.
Okay. It's that easy. So thank you, JR, because I hadn't thought to tell people about starting the discussion from over here, but obviously it was obvious enough to be found. And it works wherever it happens to be. Also, if there are changes to the project, in other words, if there are actually new pieces added to the model since the last time you saw it, if you're looking at it and somebody else adds pieces to it, there'll be a note down here saying there's been changes to the model that you haven't seen yet. So the other thing is, I posted a link to this. People commenting about experience with the dreaded words that I refuse to use most of the time, and how to build models. Okay. I offer this as the most jargon absent approach to making explicit what you're thinking in terms of some of my own experience, because I started out and I started with a blank page, which was absolutely devastating because I always wanted to start in the right place. So I couldn't start, and therefore I ended up with a blank page, and it was a vicious reinforcing cycle that just drove me crazy until I finally realized that it doesn't matter where you start. Since it's all connected, just get started. Just think Nike. A model is a simplification of reality, and I hate to use the model word also because it puts people off. The simplification of reality intended to promote understanding. To the extent it accomplishes this, It's a good model. If it doesn't, then either work on it until it does or throw it away and build a better one. And then one day I actually asked myself this stupid question. How is it that I actually go about creating a model? I've been doing it for 20 years or 40 years or something. And then I asked myself this question, and I was surprised about the answer, because this is the answer. It's 7 steps. Begin with a situation or topic that I want to understand. And I ask, what influences this? And what does this influence? And then I ask number 2 and 3 repeatedly for all elements until I run out of answers. And then I explain my model to someone else, asking them how to improve it. And then I try not to be an idiot and argue with them about the feedback that they give me. And then trying to understand what are the implications of the understanding that have developed. That's how I develop models. There is no, it is the most, well, it's the simplest thing that I can come up with that doesn't include a lot of rules that people have to learn about how to do it. I mean, it's just do it.
So Jean, a while back, a couple of years ago, I took this course done by the JeeAirr group. I don't know if you know them, and they do this systems practice course, I think they call it. And they use something very similar to this. So you go through several cycles of saying what influences this and what is it influenced with. And I took the course with one of my prospective clients because they wanted to understand, what this systems thinking was. So we did it together, and we took quite a narrow topic, and we started drawing all these relations, and we ended up with a huge amount of things, and they were totally overwhelmed by it. And they were like, this is too much. This makes my life too complicated. I don't want to do this. So I know you told me that a lot of the time models have become very, very complex, and that's where people go wrong. So for me, it's like, yes, it looks simple like this, but if you start to look at the topic and you do these cycles many times, you could end up with something that is really huge. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Do you have any comments on that?
I find that I have to wade deep in the water to figure out how to swim. So that I had this model that I developed that was really good for demonstrating storytelling, though it had 32 loops in it. And by the time I explain it and get to the 10th loop, people can't remember what was on the first loop. So I actually stopped one day and I said, what does this mean? So I got this model with 30-some loops in it, and I realized that it was two shifting the burden structure stuck together. It was only 4 loops. The essence of all of those pieces was 4 loops, which is really easy to explain to someone because it's not overwhelming. But I had to wade into all of that confusion to figure out which pieces were actually the most relevant.
So basically,
I know the confusion hurts. I think it's necessary.
So Kerry, you're a worldwide expert on these models. What do you do to make it a lot more less scary and kind of a lot more manageable? I'm curious how you do it, because I think you teach to all sorts of people, young and old, and so what's your tip?
Well, that's a really interesting question. How you transfer skills. So I've got my own skills, and I've been developing those for 40 years, and I've worked with about 70 corporations worldwide, UK government departments in that time, from tiny startups through to some of the biggest organizations in the world, like Nestle, for example, embedding all of this right the way through their organization. And I can tell you that corporations take this very seriously. Yeah, but what they do is they use it to optimize a part. They put a boundary, and they're very clever at optimizing shareholder value short term using this approach, because you have to remember this is a double-edged sword, which is why I'm curious about the people here. Do we use it for good or do we use it for evil? It's incredibly powerful. Okay, now that's number one. Number two is I stopped using it with corporations back in 2005 for that reason. I quit my job. And I moved to France, where I'm actually sitting in France now, and I'm about to move back because I sold my house here at the start of COVID. And today I bought a house. Yeah, I bought a new one because that enables me not to be part of the UK system. And I don't like the UK system. And the big thing that we all do is what we do with our time and our money. That's the big vote that we make in our life, and that is acting systemically. That is where our leverage is as individuals. Saying other people have to do it first, or that we need the government to change something or somebody else to change something, is not a systemic thing to do. It's about our own power. Yeah, it's about taking back our own power. And it's one thing drawing models and understanding the way we think, but if we don't act in line, if we're not prepared to experiment, as Jean's doing with a system, we can never learn. You know, we become paralyzed. Now, the only way that I ever got anybody to do this, and I'm being really honest, I've done all sorts of things in my time, from training courses, workshops, ongoing training courses, you name it. The only way I got was immersion, because it's a language. Yeah, you're learning a new language. Now, when I learned French, I went along to classes. I went every week, once a week, and I think this meets once a week, to a class with other people that did not know how to speak French. The only person that could speak French was the leader. I mean, Jean's here, he's leading us. He knows the language, yeah? But I never learned that much in those groups, I have to be honest. I only learned when I became completely immersed in a group of people that could all speak French. Yeah, where I was a complete alien. And at first it was incredibly scary. But then over time, something happened to me. And it was from immersion. Now, when I work with an organization, what I do is I take apprentices. And these people give all their time. They spend all their time with me. Because otherwise, if they're not immersed with whoever it is, it just becomes a separate part. It's a separate thing. It's another commitment. And you can't learn how to do anything like that. My experience of learning is that we learn when we commit and we immerse. And, you know, we can take a dip our toe in the water, but after a while, we're never going to get any further. We are never going to get any further unless we really commit and go for it. And the reason I'm interested in the people around the table in terms of the topics is, why are you interested in those topics? What are you going to do differently? Because that's where we have to get to in these models, what it is that we, each of us individually, are going to do differently. And if you're not going to do anything differently, I'm just not interested in participating. So that's me.
So should I quit?
No, don't quit.
So to your comment, Huda, that system practice course is given twice a year, and it's free, and it's 8 weeks long. And either you go there with a group of people to investigate a topic, or you go and find a group that's already formed and have them let you participate. It was developed by the ejbachrad group, which is the same group that developed Kumu.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I have to say, I mean, Kerry, sometimes when she talks, I get a bit scared, because it's almost like she went inside my head and she's like taking things out of my head. I find myself nodding a lot when you're talking. I took the course, and I actually really was quite taking that course made me decide that I wasn't going to learn systems thinking by learning the rules, that I was going to read case studies of what people did and meet people that practice systems thinking to learn it, just because I just found that it was kind of, I mean, it was useful in getting some principles, but it just felt like a step-by-step thing, right? And it wasn't. So I agree with you, Kerry, that at least for my learning journey, I was like, I'm going to go and see what it looks like in real life and to do it. So I agree about the course, but I didn't know that I mean, they are good. I really like the guy, but it didn't really help me so much in kind of like changing the way I think or changing the way I see things. What I haven't put my topic on here yet because I don't know the exact wording that I would like to formulate it, but my idea is that, so there, for example, we had COP28 and so many people complained about the way it's set up, the way countries did not meet their governments didn't meet their pledges. Everyone is always complaining that somebody hasn't done the right thing, but I think people should just start doing things themselves. And I feel like when I hear people, when I see people, I feel that people just, are they just reacting to the news, which are skewed, or to things? And people are not, like, I really feel that people need to think more systemically in order to understand what's happening and to understand how they can also take part and how they can do things that are intelligent, not just some dumb actions. And so for me and Kerry, like, I owe you that form that you gave me a long time ago. And the reason I didn't send it to you is that it created this whole existential crisis within me, because the first question was, what is your purpose? And I had this purpose when I started with systems thinking. I said, I want to bring systems thinking into cancer care. That is what I wanted to do because I saw so many gaps. And so I started typing the answer. This is my purpose. These are the people that I want to get to. But actually seeing all these things happening in the world, it's kind of started to feel like the wrong, well, it's still something that I feel passionate about, but I feel it's so urgent that more and more and more people think systemically so that at least they're not doing dumb things and not waiting for their governments to do things. They can start doing things from the everyday person. So I haven't figured out a nice way of formulating this, but that is my topic that I want to be interested in, is that I want to kind of look into, like, how do we get people to act in all these crises that we're facing? How do we get people to act intelligently? Potentially, I don't want to put a solution in there, but in my head, if people start to think, and more people at least have a better understanding of the systems and how they work around us, then maybe we can start to move forward without waiting for our governments to do something. So that is my topic once I figure out how to articulate it, but that's what I was thinking.
So, Huda, people always do exactly what makes the most amount of sense to them based on their current understanding in the context of the moment. So if you do something that doesn't make sense to me, it's not because of something you don't understand, it's because of something I don't understand. Because if I were you, I would be doing the same thing. So with that realization, I have to stop myself. And rather than be critical of what you're doing that I don't understand, I have to seek to understand from your perspective. As Covey said in the 7 Habits, seek first to understand and then to be understood.
Yeah.
So that's why I quit being a systems thinker and became a storyteller. I simply quit trying to convince people of things because they will do what they think
but that's
appropriate.
But that's, well, I guess that is what the hypothesis is that most people don't really think enough about what's happening because they just see the news and they see social media and they just react to those without actually thinking. So like a really, really simple example, very simple one. We have 2 bins in my kitchen, one for recycling and one for usual, normal, the rest of the rubbish that we cannot recycle. We're really, really religious about recycling plastic. I hate plastic so much, but we recycle it. But actually recycling plastic is not really a good idea because recycling plastic, thanks Elizabeth, I need to run in a couple of minutes as well, but thanks Elizabeth for joining. Recycling plastic produces microplastics. So when you recycle it, you actually
created an even bigger problem because microplastics are so difficult to get rid of, and they make us sick, and they've contaminated everything in the world. So actually, recycling seems like a good option, but it actually is not. I didn't know that. I've been religiously recycling plastic for ages. What would have been a better solution is for me to try and avoid plastic as much as I can. But I did not have the knowledge of that many years ago. So this is just like a plain example of saying, it's my hypothesis. I'm not saying that this is the way it will work, but my hypothesis is that what if people had a better understanding of what was going on and how things impact each other? Would they act better? Would they make better decisions?
I agree. They would.
So that's what I would like my topic to be, and how where do we have to start? Where do we reach these people? Who are these people? And Kerry asked me this question a long time ago, and I'm still in my head. I had so many conversations and I still don't know who to go to, how to go to them, how to even start. So that's why I haven't got back to you.
So it sounds like a marvelous topic for several people to work on.
I hope so. I hope you'll join me, because it's too much in my head right now, and I don't have the skills as much as many of you. Again, like Jean-Raymond said, I'm also quite new to systems thinking, so I do understand the principles, but I don't have all the tools. I haven't used them so much. So for me, it's great to have all these people, to have access to all these wonderful people, and to learn from them and swap ideas and tools, and so.
Huda, if you're interested, I can probably dig it out, and I've got hundreds of causal loop diagrams, and they were all about making decisions like this about my life when I moved to France. And I did a lot of so I've got lots of diagrams about the impact of recycling versus other things I could do. And I did experiments as well. I did lots of experiments on how could I live a life free of plastic, and not just free of plastic, but local, that everything had to have been grown locally, and that I knew where it had come from. I knew the people.
Wow.
Very interesting when you do these experiments. Suddenly life becomes incredibly interesting. Most people are disengaged, completely disengaged.
Oh, well, I think that sounds like, Kerry, we need to have another call sometime soon.
I think another problem is that different people are at different, what I call stages of consciousness. And to some people who are at a lower stage of consciousness, usually rational reasoning and explaining what happens to plastic and all that, they don't understand that, or they don't care about that. And we have to find out where they are and explain things, or work with them in the right kind of stories, as Jean says, that fit them and their perspectives.
What's massive, I found, is this, and I learned it from doing line dancing. And that is that if I focused just on what I was doing, I could stay with my program. The minute I saw somebody else going wrong, I went wrong in the same way. And that's almost without thinking about it. So the big thing we can all do is not tell other people what to do, is to behave that way ourselves and let it just permeate, and it will.
I hope so. This sounds really great. I'm so sorry. I have to go pick up my daughter from nursery.
Well, we're way over time, so we all need to go, because I need to go. But I thank you all very much.
But thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
And I'll send out an update in a message shortly after the video gets processed. So thank you all.
Awesome. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.